You know longships? The ones used by these guys? Well, it turns out there's actually different types. And in this video, we're going to be having a look at these iconic Scandinavian exports through the medium of another iconic Scandinavian export. In microscale, not minifigure scale, because I wasn't willing to drop hundreds of pounds on the budget of a short YouTube video. But before we get to it, I've got 3 disclaimers for you. So if you skip this bit and write a big essay in the comments about something I'm going to address, I'm going to be very disappointed in you. Here they are. This is not an exhaustive list. There are a lot of Old Norse terms for ship. A lot. Just like there are a lot of words for ship in English. Today we'll only be looking at a handful of them, generally ones used in the early Viking Age, so it's probable that you'll be able to do your own research on longships and think, hey, you missed out the Kavi, or the Snekka. There will be a lot of Old Norse words, and I will be pronouncing them in horrific fashion. Apologies about that. If you're into Old Norse linguistics, you will roll your eyes at this video. The information presented in the video is not as concrete as we wish it was. My main source for this video is this paper by Norwegian linguist Elda Heidi, whose name I've just undoubtedly butchered. We don't have a huge amount of sources about longships, and due to the Vikings' bad habit of not writing things down, historians have to work with the meagre evidence they have and at times provide an educated guess. In the paper itself, it actually notes other arguments that have been made for the definitions of these words. Just thought that was important to mention. Okay, that's all the disclaimers out the way, let's get to it. Let's start with this little fella. This is the Aladi, or Eladi? The smallest and hardest to pronounce of all the ships in this video. Now, rather unusually for a longship, the linguistic evidence suggests that the design was borrowed from Slavic groups to the east, and then iterated upon and improved by the Vikings. Why is that unusual? Because the Vikings were the top dogs of maritime innovation. They didn't borrow technology from other people, they set the trends, other cultures copied them. But in this case, the Slavs showed them how it was done. The Aladi design has a flat bottom, both in the Lego model and the actual craft. All the models in the video are going to be flat bottomed because it's Lego, but you'll just have to bear with me and trust that this one is really, really flat in comparison to the rest. But why is it flat? Because it's used for rivers. If you were sailing in shallow water, you were much more likely to run aground. Ships without a larger hull protruding deep below the waterline can maneuver shallows such as rivers and coastal areas much more effectively. Now theoretically this ship could have been used as an ocean-going vessel, but it would have been far more unstable than other longships, especially during rough seas. I wouldn't recommend sailing the North Sea on one of these. The Nor. This one's a bit more impressive. Look at how many more guys you can cram onto it. The word Nor means backwards curved, and to explain why this is relevant, we're going to have to talk about stems. Now, ships with a keel, that's this bit, often also have a stem, that's this bit. The front curvy uppy bit of the keel. Longships typically had one of 3 different shaped stems. The first is a stem that projects forward from the bow, the second has this type of wedge-shaped bit sticking out, so it comes out of the water at a roughly 90-degree angle. The third type curves backwards, and this is the one that concerns the Nor. This ship is named for the type of stem it has. The Nor was the traditional style of ship in the Trondelag area of Norway. Sorry Norwegians. The Skolderlev 1 is an archaeological example of this ship. Later on in the Middle Ages, the term Nor was used to describe ocean-going merchant ships. No idea how this one's going to be pronounced, but I'm going to stick with beat because it's easy to say. Yet again, this one's a more substantial longship than the last one. At this point, I should clarify that the ships aren't necessarily being shown in size order, as these longships in particular were not classified using size. I just thought it would be more fun if we started off with a small model and worked our way up. Remember all the stuff about stem types? Well, once again, the stem is the key to identifying this ship. This time it's this one. Stems of this kind work similarly to a skeg on modern boats. They provide greater stability by increasing a ship's lateral resistance, allowing them to cut through the water in a more consistently straight direction in the face of air pressure coming from a starboard or port direction. The stem on this longship worked the same way. Think of the beak kind of like the reverse Aladi. It would have been fantastic for getting you there and back on those monastery pillaging holidays across the North Sea, but the keel shape would make it a nightmare to manoeuvre in shallow or narrow bodies of water. We haven't found a physical example of this ship, but we know angular stem longships existed because they show up in artwork of the period. first, the kjol doesn't look too much bigger than the beat, until... look at that. This one has considerably more girth than the ships featured so far. The kjol would typically have a large storage capacity compared to other longships, and would have been very useful for transporting passengers, supplies, and livestock across large distances. This ship was probably the type used to settle Iceland. An earlier, similar design would have been used by the Angles, Saxons, and Jutes when they migrated to Britain. A kjol is mentioned in the first poem of the Poetic Edda. In stanza 51, a kjol is said to carry the fire giants from Muspelheim to participate in Ragnarok. There must have been a hell of a storage capacity on that one. If it hasn't sunk in by now, the kjol was used primarily as a cargo ship. The Gokstad ship, found forming a burial ground in the Sandefjord area of Norway, was a kjol. Lastly, but not leastly, the skeed. While the kjol might have the edge on girth, the skeed is decisively winning in the length department. These ships were typically very, very long and very, very narrow, like big floating sword blades. One of the meanings of the word skeed actually means sword sheath. The word is also associated with speed, and the skeed longships were probably pretty speedy. This ship type is interesting because we have found lots of physical examples of it, such as the Hedeby 1, the Skolderlev 2, the Ladby ship, and the Roskilde 6, the latter of which is the longest Viking longboat ever discovered, at a whopping 37 meters in length. That's longer than a blue whale. And that's about it. I include all my sources in the credits of the video if you want to check them out for yourself. If you like the video and want to see more, give me a like and or a subscribe. Make sure you actually do this because you'll inevitably forget the name of the channel and never be able to find it again if you don't. If you hated the video, also give a like and a subscribe. Lastly, please do not use this video as a source for anything important. Bye. My main source for the video is this paper by Norwegian linguist Elder... Oh, for f***'s sake, that's such a tongue twister, Norwegian linguist. My main source for this video is this paper by Norwegian linguist... Oh my Christ. My main source...